Good to jump into our game week preparation. Yesterday was a good day for our special teams work. Continue to emphasize some situations. 2-minute. Being able to get some cash down. Reps, and then carrying it into the day, which is a normal Tuesday for us, as we really had our first full day of focus on Alabama, and making sure that we're still on point. In building our execution. We have a pretty good sense of what things are looking like personnel wise, but still some guys that are really trying to elevate themselves into either rotation, and there are still a couple positions where you could go a couple different ways there as we lead up here this next week and a half. And so but I thought it was a good hard grueling day, which we kind of needed today, and I like the foundation we have as we're introducing certain things within the game plan. You have when you go through the way we are, you get basically a couple weeks to be able to look and see, and some things that you might have had thoughts of in the summer, as you've seen your team grow through the last 16 practices. A real opportunity of what are the strengths, what are the things that we're operating at a higher level of efficiency with, and kind of making sure on both sides of the ball that putting playmakers in a position to go do exactly that. But I thought it was a good work day. Still some competitive speed work, with good on good, and then we did break up into scouts a little bit, and got an opportunity to jump into Alabama, and I really was pleased with the mindset of the guys. Yet we're on some of the look squads, and with a smaller roster size, I mean, there's some guys that are having to do a little bit of both, and there's guys that absolutely are going to help this football team win games here this fall, that are still jumping down and making sure that we get quality speed and good looks on both sides of the ball. So I thought our guys had the right attitude and approach, and it was a competitive day. So excited where it is. Tomorrow we'll come back with a game week Wednesday, and we'll kind of continue to progress throughout the course of this week, leading up into the actual game week, starting on Sunday.
All right.
In the offseason, you talked about taking a slightly different approach with player acquisition this offseason. Do you feel like across the board, at a high level, you guys got what you expected from the guys you brought in, and how important is that going to be?
No, I think we did, and I've said it ad nauseum of guys with an edge, guys that there's no player on this team that is a finished product or really has achieved at the full level of what I think they're capable of. And I'm really excited about the talent, the potential, all those things. But I feel the edge. I feel guys that are trying to push to go be better. That and even today there were some moments with some really talented players that if it's a disappointing result in the moment, how do they respond to that? And what I'm looking for is the fight, and that's where I'm seeing that, and I call that. I mean, that is leadership. When things don't go well, are you willing to go out there and be the example of how it should look, right? Of how you should respond? Are you willing to encourage somebody? Even have maybe a momentary, mistake that you have. Are you still willing to encourage others? Are you still willing to push the standard, or do you fall back? And the thing that I think this team has done a really nice job of, throughout back since January, is that we've tried to throw them in as many competitive situations as possible, and I'm feeling that speed, and I'm feeling that response, I'm feeling that urgency. Even today, one of the things we've kind of changed a little bit in practice. We've always gone good on good, but we're finishing with that at the end, and so we're getting some crossover periods. Man, how we talk about how you start. We're starting the way we always have, where we're coming out the gate, but even just changing a little bit of the dynamic of how we finish, getting some good crossover work, and getting speed on speed. And I thought that was good today, and it forces the push throughout the course of practice. But just seeing guys upholding that standard of what it needs to look like, and I think our coaches are working and doing a good job of keeping that accountability at the forefront of the mind, throughout what we're asking these guys to do.
Brenda?
Following up on Ira's question, the newcomers on the defensive line specifically, a nice combination of transfers and young guys. I guess how is that group done, and now through 16
Yeah, I've been really pleased. I think it's been awesome seeing Jason Jenkins getting back. Just because he wasn't able to go through anything in the spring, but you feel his presence. A guy that plays with a great motor. Very strong, powerful. We're still making sure that we're doing all things building him up. To maximize what that availability will be there in game one. But excited about what I'm seeing from him. A guy that I think's taken some really good strides from the spring to now is Deontay McCray. Like he is, you're feeling his physicality. He's got obviously great build. He's built and looks the right way. But I think as he's gained his confidence in what to do, you're feeling more of his physicality, his explosiveness. Excited about what I'm seeing there. James is, we needed a guy that would come in and be that workhorse, be a guy that embraces a leadership guy that can be impactful. And I think we got a great one in regards to what he can do and what he can bring. And then obviously the younger guys I think are really they've been impressive. And we've seen some young guys that have come in and I think are going to put themselves in a position to have a chance to impact. And then even some guys that have been here that you're seeing taking some positive steps. So that our defensive line group needs to be 7, 8, 9 deep that can have a chance to go and impact through the course of the game, especially here early in the season. But I think there's been a great deal of work that's gone into it, and I like how they're responding.
Beyond having a ton of talent on the defensive side of the ball, what is it that Alabama does that challenges teams so much in Camelback's system?
They've got great versatility. You're going to see the 4 down with Pop's pressures. They'll jump into their 3 down kind of mixed looking fronts. I think Coach Womack does a nice job in his variation in his attack. There's times that they're going to bring +1 at any point where they're going to force you to either get the ball out or obviously it's some challenging situations where we've seen that they've had great impacts against offenses. This is a defense that I think very, very experienced in the back end, and I think they've got some newcomers that they're excited about. They're in coverage, and so for us it's going to cut down to a lot of one-on-ones. They're going to try to force the issue with what they're doing defensively. They run well, they're big, they're stout up front. So it's they definitely make you earn it, and it's gonna be a great challenge. A very experienced defense that's coming back, and one that has a lot of ability.
There's been a lot of competition in the defensive backfield. I know a couple of guys like Jerry are doing well to kind of separate themselves. But is anyone else in your eyes in these last few practices kind of taking that step up and cementing themselves?
Yeah, I think Jarrell Rawls has been good. I think you're seeing the confidence, you're seeing the edge that what he's doing. Q, I think I might have mentioned, was limited basically heavily last week. Today, he jumped back in, and it was good to see him moving around, getting some quality work. Getting him back out there. He's a guy that I really like his game. I like his mentality. I think he's got a huge ceiling of what he can do. Shamar has put himself right in the mix of in that conversation. Charles Lester's taking some positive steps. I think we've got a good group to be able to work with, and I'd say a young guy that I think we'll see what it looks like here early in the season. But Ricky Knight, Kai Bates, those guys have ability, and they're still just young in their process. But you're seeing them. What I appreciate about them is that you feel their work, and there's a couple guys that are kind of jumping back and forth during the course of practice. But man, I'm excited about that group. I think our safety position has there's a lot of competition back there. I think Ash, KJ, you're feeling their growth, and both young players that KJ got some good experience last year, but you're feeling them taking that step. Edwin Joseph really is coming along. I've seen some better flashes from Shy as he's continued to work through it. So I think we got a talented group and some guys that are emerging right as we're getting closer here to game day.
Corey?
You mentioned Jacob Rizzi the last time we talked. What position? I don't know if he's providing depth. You said he has a chance to start. What position are you guys?
Obviously he can do a little bit of everything, right. But interior, playing the guard position, obviously can provide depth at center, but I mean, it's gonna be at guard. And, you know, it's good because he's really done a little bit of everything. So if we needed to shuffle line, but I mean, he's put himself right in the mix within the competition, to, you know, here this, you know, next week and a half. You know, I would say that, you know, his experience, you know, his ability, you know, the confidence. I mean, I even mentioned to him yesterday, you're seeing him, you know, even, you could feel the confidence in his just body and how, you know, he's being hard on his feet. He's being, you know, he's working to create movement. Still some things he's got to clean up a little bit, just knocking some of the rust off. But, you know, I like his progression and I like the attitude which he brings.
Coach Harris talked about Gavin Blackwell coming back from being limited last week. I'm sure it's been a challenge for him having come in late in the spring and then being limited to kind of learn everything and expecting to have a big role. How has he kind of responded to that, and what has his role been over the last
Yeah, no, Gavin, he's done a good job, and really one of the, you know, underlying, you know, blessings to it, but also, you know, something that made him very, you know, kind of attracted for us is that, you know, he's got a really good foundation of things that, you know, are within the offense, and, you know, everything will be unique to the place, but there's a good foundation to things that of, you know, where to be, what it looks like, you know, some of the different concepts, and, you know, he's a really smart player. He does have experience, you know, and then, you know, he's got great speed, and so you feel his speed when he gets on the field. He has been, you know, he's been full go the last couple of days, which has been nice. Made a nice play in 2-minute drill yesterday. So I mean, it's good to see him out there and fully functioning. And, you know, once again, it's just each rep that goes by. I mean, you know, with the timing, with you know, some of the specifics, but, you know, he's an experienced player that, you know, I think he's done a good job through some of the challenges.
Bob?
Coach Jake, you had mentioned yesterday, I think Jake Weinberg has had maybe 10 good days in a row, 6 for 6 on Saturday. How has he progressed through camp, and then also maybe how was being on campus last year beneficial for him to be in this position?
Yeah, and I think it was huge for him just to be able to come in and to kind of see, and, you know, when you're behind a guy like, you know, Ryan Fitzgerald, who's so, you know, one of the best in the country, I mean, you get to see the process, the preparation. You know, Jake is extremely competitive, and I love his mentality. I mean, he wants the game to be on his back. You know, we finish today. We finished with a long field goal. You know, with a game-winning field goal situation, and, you know, he's hit it as true as it can be. And, you know, he's got a confidence about himself, but it's also, you know, he's humble to put it in the work. And, you know, it's just. You know, I'm excited for him. You know, he's got to go through it, and he's got to go do it in front of, you know 70,000+ and all of those things. But, you know, I've got a lot of confidence in what he's gonna be able to do in the overall work I've seen over the last year plus.
I'm gonna do a few more, Brennan. For some of the positions that are still being kind of settled on depth chart wise, I imagine the answer might vary depending on what position it is, but is that a good thing that because of competition?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think they're, you know, you want guys that are pushing that. I don't want this kind of gap between first team and second team. If there is, and you get injured, it's, you know, you get nasty. And there's gonna, you know, in this game, there's gonna be times guys are available, some are unavailable. There's gonna be times where guys, you know, you have to, you know, they're gonna develop their roles and what they can do. And so I think the fact that there are, you know, positions that are really, really close, and well, that speaks to positive depth that we have at the position, but also, you know, guys that can go in there and make great plays. And, you know, so it's I think it is a good thing, and there's not one of those position battles where I feel, well, a guy's not emerging. Like, I feel like there is, you know, a real push to, all right, who is the best option, and, you know, if there's areas where guys are a little bit, you know, maybe have stronger, you know, capabilities, then, you know, it's our job to find great roles for them to come impact this team.
Here.
Coach, we've been hearing a lot about what the freshmen and what the impact that they could bring. Like, what do you tell these players, especially going into preparing for Alabama, when it comes to preparation and how they're going to handle their first game?
No, I mean, you trust your process. You know, you go out every day, and every day at practice, I mean, you're playing in a national championship game. You're playing in the moment. You know, you got to get yourself to have that feeling, that excitement, because there's still, you know, when you get to it, there's very few ways that you can simulate just the emotion that goes into it, but you try to create that as much as possible in a practice setting. But I mean, these guys, they played, a freshman that's coming in, right, that has a chance to impact, which we've got a good number of them. I mean, they're here for a reason, and they're here because, they've played at a very high level. What I like is that they've transitioned from, the high school ranks to what's going on in college, and, they're accelerated in their process. And now it's just being true to who they are. You don't have to get caught up in the moment, and, have fun going to play ball, trusting the things that you've learned to go put yourself in that best position.
All right.
Probably hard to go into specifics, but when you have a game like this to start a year, can you give an idea of how much time, how many resources, how many people on the staff have been working on preparing for this moment as you put in the game?
Yes.
Can you give us an idea?
A lot.
I mean,
it's the same. I'll say this, like, it's, a game like this, as a coach, this is a huge game. It is a huge game. I'm not saying, well, it's just like any other game. No, hell no. You get freaking Florida State, Alabama. It was awesome. Like, you kicking off the season with that. All right, top 10 teams coming in here, for all of it. Right? But it's the approach that you bring, that it's the mindset, everything, regardless of who you play. But the first game of the season, when you're playing a first game, there's so much that goes into trying to establish who you are, right? What you do well, what you might face, the unknowns of what you could see. So yes, there's countless hours and all phases of what it can be, but it still starts with us. And I think that's as much as that, you can go out there and try to do what you think's gonna work against this look or this team, but if it doesn't fit you, it won't matter. And it still comes down to making sure that we're on point when with the things that we can control, that we're putting our guys in the best position. But yes, the amount of research, how far you go back, what you look at, extensive. Countless hours.
All right, thank you, Coach.
All right, thank you guys.